Go.
There
It's
we
just
are.
strange how it says go.
Yeah,
Go.
exactly.
Like we need to leave the area and walk away.
Yeah.
Go away.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
Yeah.
Mountain Rat Matt.
Yeah. Hey,
Good job.
congrats, dude. Yeah.
Well done, sir.
Are you tailwheel? Can you fly your own plane now?
I can't hear him.
There's gonna be a delay. I know, and it's there's like a 30-second delay until it'll hit the comments anyway. But yeah.
Oh, even better. Let's make it as weird as possible.
Yeah.
Weird as possible.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what I think of when I think of him is that plane. So
You have to refresh my memory. Which plane is that?
he won the 140.
Oh, I thought that was Rescue Rat.
You're right. Wrong rat. Wrong rat. Okay, so Matt is very confused what I'm asking about that.
Yes, he's going, I want a plane?
Yeah.
You're going to tell me where that plane is that I want?
Exactly.
I just saw everybody named Rat had a 140. That they won.
It's mental chunking. It's like I just saw a rat and that's the bucket.
Yeah,
The bucket of rats.
The rat
Yeah.
bucket.
Yeah.
I'm going to start using mental chunking in my daily lexicon.
Yeah. Another phrase that's used for that is snap to grid, where you just use that default thing. Yeah. Yes, I was, and I'm sorry. All right, we ready to fire this thing off?
Let's do it.
My camera's not right. But yeah, go ahead.
All right.
They don't need to be right.
You're still in it. Sorry.
Damn it.
Welcome to the Midlife Pilot Podcast. What is it like to become a pilot in midlife? The challenges are unique, but so are the rewards. Hosts Ben, Brian, and Ted talk learning to fly, growing as pilots, and the joy of flying to destinations. The purpose of the podcast is not to teach, but to share knowledge and experiences. You definitely should not take any advice too seriously from an aviation podcast that uses terms like icing on the vegetables. Okay, checklists are complete. Let's get the show started.
Hello and welcome to the episode 150 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast, where we share the experiences and challenges of flying in midlife. This episode, it's real talk from the avionics channel on our Discord server. And it's about the joys of avionic upgrades. Well, joys, financial pains, kind of all the same thing. I don't know. Joining me tonight, as always, Brian in Nashville and Ted in Portland. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Hey, nice to be here.
How is everybody?
Well, I'm good. I know that Ted's good. I know that you're good because you were just here. But man, what a weekend. So Ben, I know that you like to kick it around to us when we start off the show, but I want to get right into this with your perspective on your flying adventure this weekend. It seems like you did something pretty cool, and maybe, I don't know, maybe it's because I was around.
Yeah, whenever I can be around you, my cool factor does go up about 30%. So we had been talking about it in previous episodes. The City STOL event took place at, guess what? At Music City Executive Airport, November X-ray. But as I also have mentioned in the past, I like to get my night flying in now. So I decided to depart the Metro Atlanta area and fly up the night before to go hang out with my friend Brian. Excuse me. And it was a fun trip. It was a great trip. The weather was great, but I had a very fun exchange with Nashville Approach. So if I can, I'll set it up. I check on with Approach, and the tower at John C. Toon Airport closes at 9 p.m. That's a very important factor into this exchange. As I check on with the controller, it's literally 9:01 p.m. And the controller says, Nashville's advertising RNAV 20. And then he said, wait, it's closed. It's dealer's choice. Which approach would you like? And I said, well, the winds were calm, like for a long time because I kept checking the weather. the winds are calm. I said, I'd like RNAV 02 because I could get down to the ground a little sooner. He said, you could expect that. And then literally like 2 minutes later, he said, proceed direct to Funjo, which is the initial fix on that approach. So I'm getting closer and closer to it. And I have another controller come on the frequency. There was a shift change. And he said, 14911, turn 5 degrees to the left. I'm thinking to myself, okay, he's just turned me a little bit outside of the fix, going to set me up for a stable approach. And the voice sounded a little familiar. Well, I'm about 1.5 miles past the approach fix on this heading that he has given me. And then he gives me another heading to basically parallel the runway. And I'm looking for the airport and I'm thinking it's way out. The reason, and let me take a quick pause to say, when I'm flying night, even if it's VMC, I really like to fly instrument approaches because I don't have to worry about looking for the doggone airport. The approach is going to line me up perfectly with it. And that's the whole reason I did it. Thinking that John C. Toon was going to be in this big metropolitan area. So I get on there and I see that he's has me on this vector past the approach course, the final approach course. And I look down and I'm at 4,000 feet. And I look down and about 4 miles in front of me is John C. Toon Airport.
So and the airport's at 500 feet elevation.
Yes. Yes. And it's the only lighting that's in the area. It's like one of the easiest airports in the world to find. So I check in and I said, I was supposed to be on the RNAV 02. And there was about a 5-second pause. And then he goes, oh, I was told that you're on 20, the RNAV 20. I'm sorry. Well, I can vector you around. And I came back on and I said, I've got the airport in sight. I'll just, continue with 20. It's no problem whatsoever. And then I said, is this Sierra whiskey? And there was another 5-second pause. And he said, yeah, who's this? And I said, this is Bravo Sierra from your second favorite podcast. And he laughed. And I was like, he goes, man, the other controller told me it was 20, and I could hear the other controller in the background laughing hysterically.
The hot potato.
The hot potato, yeah, he totally threw the other controller under the bus, and probably justifiably so. But it was a funny exchange. We had a great time with it. The beast can lose a lot of altitude in a short period of time. I stayed on the downwind. I went ahead and canceled with them. And like I said, we had a good laugh about it. Traded a couple of texts afterwards. But it was just, I don't know. It was funny to hear him completely throw the other controller under the bus with the controller at his back because we could hear him laughing. So
yeah,
it was a lot of fun.
I was, while that was all happening, I was in my neighborhood at a local watering hole, and it was one of those where I had a general idea of when you were coming. I looked at FlightAware and it said you were landing in 4 minutes. I'm so grateful to live so close to John Toon and have my neighborhood be right here because I was able to walk up right as you were parking, but it was sort of a little bit of a dash. But yeah, you got in just fine, and the weather was amazing.
And if I'd have been on the original approach, then you would have probably been late to pick me up. So everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
But so then Brian and I hung out for a while, talked a little bit about Ted, behind his back because I'm just teasing with you, Ted.
Yeah.
Then got up early the next morning. Brian is an early riser, and even though that it's a complete fog, thick everywhere, you can't see 2 feet in front of you. We still get up early to go get some breakfast and hang out for a bit. And then we took off and went over to Music City Executive for the STOL competition. And in our chat tonight, we have Dev, who's been on the podcast before. It's a tremendous hospitality he showed me and Brian. I know, Brian, you took some pictures and some video of some of their stuff, but it was the first time I've seen that competition live and in person. I do feel like maybe I think, Brian, you've talked me into it. I think I'm going to try to enter as an amateur next year and see what happens.
The rookie class, yeah, and
The rookie class, yeah.
you've got all the equipment. So I mean, all you gotta do is just show up. I guess the only thing you need to do is just get a really cool Star Wars themed helmet or something, and and you're ready to rock. But yeah. So, and just for the sake of time, I'll pick it up from here. Ben, you were gracious enough to also bring chairs. That was really helpful. The weather for so I had gone to the competition on Friday for the practice rounds, and then also when you came Saturday, it was my second day there. On Friday, I saw Pete from Niner Systems from our community, and got to see his awesome Cardinal that has a paint job similar to Lucy, sort of a fine patina, and but it was great to see him, and yeah, I mean, just amazing competition all the way through.
I got to meet John M. And his wife.
Yeah.
Great, fun folks to hang out with.
Yeah, so we got to meet various folks from the community, and that was cool. And one of the things that I mean, obviously on Friday was amazing because Dev was nice enough. Dev is, if you guys haven't listened to the episode with Dev and the focus on the commemorative Air Force Music City Wing based here, please go listen to that episode. I had taken a ride a while back in a PT-19. This time I got a ride in S&J 4, and boy, was that a whole other level.
Let me break in here. That was episode 134, CAF Adventures, Heat Domes, and Shredded Tubes. 134.
All right.
Go ahead.
So anyway, I got my first ride in an S&J on Friday, and then my second ride in an S&J on Saturday. Did a lot of filming and talking with them and everything. So I'll be making a piece about that for my channel and for them and for all mankind. So anyway, what an incredible experience. I'll save that for another time, but I just wanted to say thanks to Dev and everybody at the Commemorative Air Force for, just, realizing that we look dehydrated. Please, hand us some water, took care of us, and really great people. One other observation I had, and we saw Adam and his son too.
Yep.
That was really cool. And our friend Tailwheel Ben, who unfortunately had a little bit of a mishap the night before and was not able to compete. But he was there and in good spirits all the while. So yeah, we got to see a lot of people. But one of the observations I wanted to make really quick was, I finally got to see Piperzilla, the ultimate STOL equipped Cherokee 180. And as many problems as we've had with our nose strut in our plane the last few months that have finally gotten sorted out, to see whatever this performance enhancing drug version is of the nose strut that he has, because man, he's got to put on the brakes. And so that was really cool to see. And again, there were so many people in the rookie class competing, and also a special shout out to the fella, I can't remember his name, who flies the decathlon. He said, I'm just here to inspire people like you that just want to do it. It's not about doing it particularly well or competing, but just being a part of this. And so, he had easily the longest landings and the longest takeoffs. And it's the second year in a row I've seen him there, and he's just so thrilled to do it. And what an inspiration. So anyway.
That's why I use Strava. It isn't to compete with others. I'm the worst at whatever it is that I'm doing. It's to see if I improved. So the same thing. It's like,
there you go.
So what that you had the longest takeoffs? How do you do compared to last year?
Right. We're really competing against ourselves.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing.
Yeah. So
that's awesome.
So everything went smooth. All of our flights went smooth. But Ted, what about you?
I got stuck.
Was it a smooth stuck or not so much?
I went to breakfast on Sunday to meet my friend. I'll talk about him a little later in the show. And just zipped down there. It's 53 miles, something like that. And on the way back, I hit enough weather that there was no way to get through VFR unless you really felt like going at 600 feet through the city. So I ended up waiting 5+ hours at this place. I tried in the middle of it to get back up, and was like, well, that's not going to work. So went down and waited even longer. Thankfully, there's like it's a very abandoned airport, but there's a clubhouse like for a pilots association that nobody's there. It's all cobwebs, But I tried to get into that building in the past and never had any luck on the door codes and that kind of thing. But I saw on the other side there were 3 large sliding glass doors, and nobody locks sliding doors properly. So sure enough, one of those was open. So I was able to go in and just, chill on a couch and surf my phone a whole bunch. So it was nice to have somewhere dry and not warm, but I guess not exposed either. So we had this, we just had a lot more weather than I was expecting. And it was poorly distributed across town. So this one delta that I went through, you could basically take the shape of the delta and it was clear. And you get to the edge of that delta and it's a wall down to 900 feet. Like it's almost comical. I flew through it and I was like, wait, their weather. Oh, actually, it is what their weather said it was. Just nothing around it was.
So there's a guy in a lair in a cave somewhere with a bunch of dials and knobs and stuff, and he's controlling all of this. He goes, "Let's get this Ted guy this time."
Yeah. It's
up the delta.
Yeah, exactly. So it was one of it must be Checklist Berry's chemtrail sticker. So. It's just one of those days where it was like, man, this would have been a lot safer with IFR. So, but these are what we sign up for, right? I went on a day that the weather was supposed to improve. It didn't. And you have backup plans, including, maybe I'll leave the plane here and take about $150 Uber ride back home. Like, this is GA. This is what we do, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Ben's case, that'd be cheaper than flying.
I'd like to laugh at that, thinking that it's really not true, but it really is true. There's no way I can make the math work.
Yeah.
So that's all. Well, I mean, I'm sorry you got stuck, but
Yeah.
again, those unplanned adventures seem to be a little bit more memorable. I've shared the experiences with my son, and we getting stuck behind a massive thunderstorm. I seem to remember those fondly, after they passed. But
well, and don't make this the first part of a crash report, right?
That's right.
He really was trying to get home, and so he was ducking under and flying through the city. No, this is not how this is done. So.
Sometimes I like just being forced to stop and just be in some weird interstitial place like that. There's something kind of, I don't know, it's kind of freeing in a way, because it's like, well, I now have to surrender to all of the external circumstances.
Yeah.
And so you just be where you are. And there's something really cool about that.
Yeah.
When you said flying through the city at 600 feet, the first thing that came to my mind was when I got like the 1993 version of Microsoft Simulator. The first thing you do is when you take off Meigs Field is to go fly your plane through all the buildings of downtown Chicago. That's what I was thinking. Ted was probably just weaving and ducking and dodging.
That's why they shut it down.
Yeah, exactly. I was thinking, I fly out of an airport that there's usually a dozen helicopters on the taxiways as I'm taking off, and they fly low like that. And it's like, this is a helicopter day. This is not an airplane day. So,
that's right.
Yeah. Yeah, Chuck says, is braking and entering a normal experience while waiting on weather? Yes, it is. Generally, somebody will find you and say, hey, there's a much warmer place over here. Or, I've been offered hangars that have beds in them to spend the night. Like, you get all these offers. This is kind of normal practice, especially at random tiny airports.
It's like, here's, this Cirrus was unlocked and the master switch is right there.
Yeah. So the other thing that goes on with that airport, I love it. It's kind of one of my favorite ones in town to visit. But it's one of those where the planes on the ramp generally all have flat tires, and you figure it's a bunch of like medical to out pilots and stuff. So it's that and a jump operation. So that's about all that goes on there.
And kind of related to our topic tonight, do you ever go avionics shopping when you're at those airplanes with all the flat tires and that have been sitting there for 20 years?
What's this? The 2x4 relay?
That's right.
Borrowing
That's right.
from construction sites, allegedly.
So,
Yeah.
Allegedly.
So for upcoming events and announcements, the only thing we really have on the docket right now is our next Midlife Pilot Podcast fly-in. We're going to say we're in the last coal period of if you've got suggestions, get them in. But right now, it's looking a lot like Tango 82 is going to be the next destination. We're going to be reaching out to the hotel and the airport folks and seeing what the availability looks like and what the time frame looks like. But if you're listening to the podcast and you have a suggestion for a great meetup place, keep in mind we want transportation to be either not needed or very simple. As many resources at the airport as we can possibly get. So let us know if you have any places in mind.
It's gonna be hard to beat Tango 82 with the just. It's gonna be hard to beat that with the hotel right there, the diner right there, the town so close.
Yep, their own fleet of rental cars.
Mike Alpha Golf said that he would show up, and he's going to redeem himself for not showing up last time. And so I think it's pretty much set. We're going to Tango 82.
Well, hopefully. Yeah. Well, he's about to do his check ride, right?
Yep, he's trying to get on the calendar for his instrument. Yeah. And I was just going to say it's doctor's orders, so we kind of have to go there because the doctor said so.
Mike Alpha Golf didn't even know that I was referencing him. He just put up a comment. He said, all suggestions are welcome, except those that aren't T82. That sounds about right.
Yep.
All right.
Brian, you want to hit the housekeeping?
Yeah, real quick. I just want to remind people that the reason why we are able to do this with no, by the way, I was listening, somebody recommended another podcast, a non-aviation related thing to me recently. And I pulled up this podcast and listened to it. And I was just getting killed with all these ads and it was so frustrating to listen to. And it reminded me of how awesome it is that we haven't done this because we're trying to make something that we want to have and listen to as much as we want to be a part of it and share with you guys. So anyway, the reason why we're able to keep this thing ad free is because of our Patreon. So we try to pay the favor back by having tons of exclusive content and value there, and obviously the Discord access for the community. So consider all that, and 10% supports Freedom Aviation Network's anti-human trafficking efforts. You can go to their website and sign up to be a pilot, do whatever you want to do there. For everything Midlife Pilot Podcast, feedback, merch, and more, visit midlifepilotpodcast.com. We've been on a roll there's been a lot of shirts going. So if you guys haven't seen the wild array of shirts that we have, one of my favorites is the Ted inspired shirt that just says it's always fuel. Oh yeah, he's got it on. There he goes. Yeah. So it's you can see it's very high level design. It's text.
Yes.
It says it's always fuel. There's a thing on this. Isn't there a logo on the back or the sleeve or something? Oh yeah. See, that's cool. I like that color too, the army green or whatever that is. Very cool. Well, see, Ted's modeling his own slogan shirt.
This is great for a podcast. I'm taking my headphones off, turning around and modeling a shirt.
Yeah.
And there's 20 people watching and more than 25 people listening. So this is why we're in the top 4,000 aviation podcasts.
Yes.
Yes. Well, speaking of the Discord community, we can just go ahead and launch into our main topic. And if you guys don't mind, I'll just launch it here.
Please.
So we, while we do look to have a lot of feedback and we do get some, the real topics and the real discussions are happening in our Discord community. And we are trying to make a little bit of an effort here to start bringing some of this stuff out because there's so many stories and threads and conversations and things that are going on that are so high value. But the one that really, I think, caught my attention and our attention recently was the very helpful, illuminating conversation around avionics upgrades in our avionics channel. And, we can start it off with the first segment here, but which we were calling when real life murders your aviation dreams, which is kind of setting the stage for why an avionics upgrade conversation is necessary when you don't have an unlimited budget and just an open checkbook to just buy whatever you want. You have to think about it. So this is really kind of setting the stage. But before we get into the whole thing, Ted, what are your thoughts here?
We're going to talk avionics, and in this group, 1/3 of us are instrument pilots. 0/3 of us are A&Ps or even basic mechanics or qualified in any way. We are not an authority. These are things we're discussing because we're interested in the topic. Please know we're not authorities in any way on this.
On anything.
So hopefully we're not going to say things as statements other than the things I'm just saying right now.
Yeah.
These are things we just want to kick around and things we've been thinking about.
I think this hits home with a lot of people in our audience because it certainly hits home with me. We had grand aspirations of doing some upgrades to the Beast this year. As you have written, life has murdered those plans. And there's some things that need maybe more attention than other. And I think after having read through the whole Discord thread and kind of identified my own situation with it, there are things that we're just going to have to prioritize and get done first. And as you noted, Brian, it's kind of doing the whole playing Tetris with maybe not with different pieces of equipment or borrowed equipment, but we're going to do this piece here and hope that it connects to this piece that we buy a year from now that hopefully connects to this piece we buy 3 years from now.
Yes. So the story began basically with a community member that was basically all set for a GPS upgrade. And by GPS upgrade, I mean getting a GPS. And things came about where it was just, a lot of expenses with, home and family and all the things that come up in our lives. And so that had kind of nullified his GPS dream. And so it was an interesting set of dilemmas here because, imagine it took me a minute to even kind of figure out what was going on here because I realized there's no GPS here. But Ted, what do you got?
So hang on though. We're talking adding a GPS. We're not talking like ForeFlight on your tablet. Why, for a non-instrument pilot, why is it a big deal to stick a GPS in your plane versus ForeFlight versus whatever? This doesn't apply if you don't fly instrument.
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, help me understand, because I feel like that's a matter of preference.
So
right?
I'd like to chime in here,
please.
I had a in-panel GPS for about 1.5 years, not having an instrument rating. It still provides situational awareness. I know the distances I need to go. It helps me with my fuel calculation.
I guess I was asking more as a rhetorical question. Until you bolt a GPS onto the panel, which adds a 0 to the cost of any piece of equipment once you bolt it into the dash, you can't fly any GPS approaches.
Oh, right. Yes. Okay.
So that's what I'm getting at. The difference between ForeFlight and something that's bolted into the plane.
Installed, certified, or STC or whatever.
So for instance, I have one of my 3 panels, the middle one looks like it's a GPS navigator. You can send flight plans from it over to the Dynons. It is in a tray or a temporary mount because as soon as you do that, or as soon as you mount it in the plane, it needs to be certified. But if it just happens to be in the dash with a hole that happens to fit the GPS, then it doesn't need to be certified. It's just for supplementary use.
I see.
And so that's what I mean. And that's why it has one less 0 than what Ben has in his plane.
Yeah. And in this case, it was the resources are so limited that it's basically, do I just get a second radio? Because when you have one radio, that's a problem. And then on the other side, what can I do to get some better navigation? So that was kind of what launched the whole conversation. You'll have to go see how that turned out, but it really, this is going to be the point that we keep coming back to. And I've heard this a lot too. It's easier said than done, but buying a plane that's already equipped is always going to win over, upgrading piece by piece. And, but that's easier said than done. It's just the nature of things. But Comanche Driver, our friend Comanche Driver and patron supporter, quote, says, I've been thinking about doing an upgrade to my panel. Might be cheaper, easier to buy a plane with this already done. And this is what Mark did. Yes. What you got, Ted?
Mr. Wendell Geek did that. The idea of paying for a full panel, which is great if you can. It means you get the plane that you want, but you're paying full price for it. So it's like moving into a house that just had the kitchen remodeled. You're going to pay a percentage of that, not the full cost of it. You're also not going to get what you want, but you're not going to pay what had to be paid up front.
I have been told since before I even took my first flying lesson, and I flew with some friends that are now mentors, they've always said, when we talk about avionics, when we're dream shopping for airplanes, you will never get your money back when you upgrade your panel.
Yeah.
And the cost, ironically, is not going down. The avionics aren't getting cheaper, yet you're still not going to get your money back out of them.
So with this person, this scenario, it was like there is a very limited pile of cash that they could use for this. They have one comm. What can you do to fly instrument? What's the minimum upgrade you can do? Not necessarily to do it safely, to fly to minimums in the soup, but
just
be able
VOR to
legally
VOR.
fly them. Yeah. And I'll put a link to the Sonex guy. I know him as the guy that lost his prop in the Sonex, and his videos aren't fully up to date, but he did like the absolute cheapest possible instrument capable plane by having an experimental Sonex that he put a DME receiver on top of the dash. Like, this box is huge. I had no idea what it was when I saw it like a year ago.
Like an 8-track.
Yeah, exactly. It's
8-track vintage, quite frankly.
Yeah, but it was legal, and I think especially for legally shooting approaches, great. For shooting in IMC, maybe a little different.
Yeah. Well, so what I thought was interesting too about the conversation that was kind of started by all this is that it really brings to light how a lot of us have 430s, 530s, and I have 530 WAS and Lucy, and it is one volume knob breaking away, or one, it's just, it feels so fragile to have really a 2005 iPod in the plane. Very capable. It's got its limitations, but it's wildly capable. Kind of amazingly considering its age, right? But people are hoarding these things, 430s and 530s, and they're obviously discontinued, and then people are kind of holding on to some of these for dear life. And then there's that weird jumping off point where it's like, okay, so now where do you go if you do have a little bit of money and you're trying to get off of a 430 or a 530, and then you're looking at like the GNC 355 or something, which is looking more like $8,000, and so it's like, it starts to, it's such a weird stretch point.
I mean, the thing is that even if you had to pay a lot of money to get a replacement 430 for your dead 430, you're not having to pay an avionics shop to rewire your plane. And so in the notes, Brian has a great phrase, which is 430s are being hoarded like Beanie Babies. And it's very true. There's a very limited number of these, and they are not repairable for the most part. I think
There's
you
shops
can't
now
get the-
that are starting to
Yeah.
refurbish.
Yeah, but it's very limited, and yet they're functional, and even being expensive, it's cheaper than rebuilding your dash.
It kind of reminds me, we had this fax machine in our office when people actually used faxes, and it was the same machine that never got serviced, and it worked
Yeah.
for 20 years straight. It never broke down. It was, and that's to me is a 430. And I like your comment as well, Brian, in our show notes. The 430 is that friend who peaked in high school. I think that's perfect because the thing does a lot still.
The good news is it's easy to find them because they're still at the same place.
That's exactly right.
So,
They're in the same exact spot. But I used it a lot. A lot of the features that most people probably don't use. I calculated my true airspeed. I use it for that. I do it for vertical navigation, which not a lot of people use it for.
Fuel, yeah.
Fuel planning.
Yeah.
Really, I just look at my display and I get all that stuff for free.
Yeah, I just have to twist a few knobs, Ted. And mine was built in 1982, so
Yes.
I mean, not too bad for only having to flip a few switches.
It's
there.
almost the grandparent of my plane.
It really is. It really is.
Well,
So,
Scott P in the comments makes a good point, which is the IFD 440 is a drop-in replacement for the 430. So there are options out there that don't involve cutting your dash apart and replacing the 430.
Yeah. So a couple of other things real quick. We got this one from this comment from oh wait, that's not the one I wanted. Hold on. Let me press the right button. It's moving so fast. Okay, here we go. From Richard, he said, just for what it's worth, I'm a fan of the dual G5 plus a GPS. Eliminates the vacuum system and makes the 430 more tolerable. I agree. Being a person that has the 530 and dual G5s, it is, and it's really nice to lose the vacuum system. That is a lot of peace of mind. So I mean,
what's a vacuum system?
Man, I'll tell you what though. I mean, I had a conversation with someone at Garmin a month or two ago, and it was a lot about how groundbreaking the dual G5s, just the G5 offering really is pretty incredible. But yeah, and there was another comment I wanted to pull up. Let me just see if I can find it because it was kind of a segue.
Our people are great. They know a lot more than we do. That's what we
Yeah.
love about our comments. So
Yeah, are
it's
we
easy to
saying
roll
stuff that's
back and-
stupid yet? Is that what they're saying? Okay. Well, so somebody had put a comment in there somewhere. It was about sort of shiny object syndrome and how that is kind of a thing to avoid. One of the things that I thought was an interesting tangential part of the conversation that evolved in the Discord about this was from one of our members who was talking about how they had gone from analog gauges to having digital engine monitoring solution full on, and how nothing obviously changed about the engine, but all of a sudden they're getting master warning lights on takeoff and the oil pressure was spiking well over the threshold. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I've always been in the green, so now you're in this position where you had sort of this blissful ignorance about what was going on with your machine, and then now you've got such precision that you know too much.
So they were seeing the oil pressure spiking, and what was the cause for that?
Well, so Ted, tell us what was.
I'm setting you up.
No, I'm setting you up. I'm spiking this one right back in your direction.
That it's entirely normal. It's just that in the past they couldn't see it because it was the thickness of the needle in the gauge that moved very slowly. So they basically figured out that they can figure out their oil level based on the oil pressure in flight, which is brilliant. I love that.
So cool. And also, well, there's a consideration with the fuel senders, right?
Yeah. So we kind of switched really quickly from talking about like Garmin 430 and GPS navigators.
Yes, we did.
To EISs.
Yes.
You've got one in your plane, right, Brian? No, you don't. Okay. Sorry. I know that Mark doesn't. I forgot if you did or not.
I have one.
I have an
one.
oil pressure gauge and that's it.
You know the engine is running because it's noisy.
Yeah.
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 When things get quiet and smooth, that's when you get concerned. No, the modern EISs are great. You can stick an SD card in and download the data, send it to Savvy Aviation. They analyze it, compare you to every other plane in your cohort with the same engine. They can tell you if an exhaust valve is failing. You can figure out things in flight that you're doing right or wrong. It's fantastic. Obviously, it's also data overload, which, depending on your personality, can be a problem. But the other thing is that adding on the fuel senders, what's the brand of those fuel senders? C's? CIES?
Sennheiser. Is it not Sennheiser?
No.
Or it might be Size. It is
I think
Size.
it's size, yeah.
Yeah.
They're fantastic. Once they're calibrated, you know exactly how much fuel is being used. And I'll tell you, as someone who has great instrumentation and an analog backup, tubes with fuel in them, it's great to know exactly how much fuel you've burned and how much you have left, instead of this hazy idea that is it on empty or is it bouncing off of empty? So that's great. Fuel senders are great because they tell you how much fuel you've burned. You can set how much fuel was in your tank when you started. How else could you lose fuel in your tank besides burning it?
So
if you're like me, you don't screw the cap on tightly. You can lose it out the top of the S tank.
And how would you know that if all you're doing is paying attention to the fuel sender? It's a great way to run out of fuel in flight.
Well, you put Luke in the back seat, and he's the one that tells you.
Yeah,
spotter. You need a spotter.
He's like, "Hey, are we dusting for mosquitoes?"
Exactly. Yeah. I was going to mention that. So we have what you just described. It tells us our fuel rate. We put in how much fuel's in there, and it really does. The comfort level, if nothing else, is because the left tank engine gauge will go from full to empty, back to midway. You just never know how much you got. So sorry, Brian, I interrupted you.
Oh no, you're fine. I want to sort of put these prompts out here for everybody, because to me there's just a lot of interesting questions. There's, to those in the chat or those that are listening, do you want to know this much about your engine? I mean, of course, in theory, everybody wants to know everything about their engine, but do you see any up or downside to that? Do you think that is perhaps a distraction for some types of pilots, or are you, is it raising kind of paranoia or introducing perhaps unnecessary shotgunning maintenance to be done, where all of a sudden parts are starting to just get thrown in your plane to solve issues that aren't really issues? It's, like Savvy sort of speaks to this on either side. I'd love to hear just anybody in the chat or anybody want to write us and sort of give us thoughts on that. And we'd love to hear about just sort of what your what problems have been illuminated for you with if you've gone from analog to digital to having an insight to deeply understanding what's happening with your engine. What has that created that's been perhaps life-saving or wallet depleting or somewhere in between?
I'll tell you one advantage of like having EGTs on each cylinder and being able to see them very easily. I've gone in for maintenance, or I've come out of my own personal maintenance and had a spark plug. What's that?
Personal maintenance sounds like therapy.
Yeah. Is FAA listening? I've come out and I've started the plane, and it would run rough, and I've got one plug that isn't firing. You can tell exactly what plug it is. So you sit there, and when you do your meg check, not quite what I do, but when you do your meg check, you're like, okay, that's number 2. So you pop the kettle, you reseat either upper and lower, or the specific one you know of that needs to be reseated, put it back together and you're good to go. So there are things like that that can be really handy. And I imagine if you had a cylinder go bad in flight, it would also be nice when it's like this thing is shaking itself apart and I can see my EGT on this cylinder is way off. You know what the cause is by then.
A couple of comments in the chat that I wanted to hit. Our friend Ryan K says, a new Lycoming is tickling or getting close to 100K. Why would you not want to know all the details and health of that investment? And then another point from our friend Lord Alpha Juliet says, fuel savings by being able to lean correctly and safely. For both of these, I do agree. I like our setup. It's just a JPI with a little bar graph on each cylinder. It's just enough information that gives me a comfort level as to know not necessarily if everything is great, but I know nothing is wrong. So it's kind of a happy medium. So, I mean, it's a little bit of both of those. So,
Yeah.
Well, the one thing we know is that the happiest people buy the plane with the avionics that they already want, and are able to do that. The next happiest people are the people that can buy a plane that maybe doesn't have everything they want, but they've got an unlimited wallet and they can just dress it up however they want. And then, for the rest of us, we have to sort of go about these decisions sort of more logically and step by step. So look forward to the continuing sort of conversations. I wanted to say also
so speaking of that, the least happy pilots, I always promote being in a partnership and splitting the costs and splitting the maintenance and everything else. The least happy are a pilot in a partnership that wants the upgrade, because now you've got to convince your plane partners that this is necessary. Hi, please, we want to spend $12,000. The plane will be the exact same afterward.
Yeah,
you have no more capabilities.
You got to have an easel and a foam core presentation thing. Like a big stick.
So this is, to me, that's the biggest downside of a partnership.
Yeah. Well, so real quick, as we leave this topic, just so people know where you can learn more about this stuff from actual sources. The FAA regs are at ecfr.gov. Look up part 61.129. You can learn all about what are TA requirements or all the other things. Pricing, Sarasota Avionics, Pacific Coast Avionics have real pricing online. Then you can kind of look at controller or trade a plane or anything to kind of see what it costs to get it all in a plane. Obviously, for engine monitor stuff, Mike Bush, Savvy Aviation is the resource. So please, follow his webinars, articles, all of that. Obviously AOPA, and get in our Discord. There's tons of these conversations going on, and so thanks to everybody keeping all that stuff alive and running, because these things they'll bubble at the top and then kind of come back down, and then somebody will have a new wrinkle or a new twist, and so we kind of get to have these long form overtime conversations that are super helpful. And even if you're not in the market to do something right now, it does help you kind of set your mind towards what pitfalls to avoid in the future. So so really good stuff. So we've got some feedback. Ben, you want to do the first one here?
Be happy to.
All right.
This one comes to us from Bill S. And he writes, I must have missed a few episodes, but did I hear Ben wants to become a professional pilot? The horror. Actually, he didn't say that. I thought I would pursue being an airline pilot when I got my PPL at 17 years old, but life happened, and that was not to be. Now that I am back to flying, I find myself daydreaming about what possible professional aspiration I can have at 54 years old. The ROI on becoming a CFI, trying to compete with 20-year-olds, does not seem to be a good option. But I am interested to know when Ben is looking into, even if just to dream a little. Glad to be part of the MLP group. Signed, Bill S. So, I am absolutely pursuing it's everybody's going to be a little bit different. I used to say on the podcast that I really just wanted to fly somebody else's airplane and not incur the expenses. And there's still some truth to that. But I've decided to accelerate my professional pilot career. Accelerate means start it sooner than later. So I've really had my eyes open to a lot of different opportunities out there. And I'm learning a lot. And maybe we'll share on a future episode.
All right.
But, there's a lot out there to be done. Forest Service. There's just so many different opportunities that you can do, and you don't have to go the CFI route. So
And age is just a number, Ben, right? Like you're just turning 40. So
yeah, I was just going to say, truthfully, I am 57, and I feel like I've got a long career ahead of me. So
Yeah.
right on. Well, there's gonna be more to come on that, and then some. So stay tuned, everybody.
if I can, real quick,
Yeah.
if there's anybody listening to this podcast that needs a really good pilot, very loyal, very good customer focused kind of guy, hit me up.
All right. There we go. And a good salesman.
And a good salesman.
Yes.
All right. Next feedback is from our friend Lewis R. He said, now that y'all are global aviation podcast celebrities with top tier prestige and reach, maybe we just stop there. I don't know. Is that good enough?
Yeah. Thanks, Lewis. We appreciate that feedback. That's awesome.
And we're closing the show. Thanks for everyone.
And we'll see you next week.
The podcast now has the ability to attract A-list guests such as Paul Craig, Erica Gilbert, Nathan Ballard, and others. We agree. These are all A-list characters.
Yeah.
I would really love to see you work to get Mike Bush on the podcast. We were just talking about him now, weren't we? In my humble opinion, he's a gift to general aviation. And while he's presently very active, he himself says that he's in the fourth quarter of his career. He recently released a 2-volume audiobook focused on airplane ownership, which is a must-read or listen for all Midlife Pilot podcast listeners who own a plane or intend to purchase one. His story on how he became an AMP AI is nothing short of amazing. I'll bet a good number of the podcast listeners are customers of his company, Savvy Aviation. It's my understanding that he's generally easy to reach, and I'll bet he would be delighted to make an appearance on the podcast. There are literally 100 possible show topics for him, but the one that rises to the top for me is how he recommends managing the annual inspection. He's very clear that the aircraft owner is in control of the process and has way more authority and responsibility than many owners realize. You could also cover owner-performed preventive maintenance and owner-assisted annuals. Just my unsolicited 2 cents, Lewis R. Thank you for that, Lewis. We totally agree. And our good friend One Dull Geek was just on an episode with them. So only fair, right? That
Yeah, that's Ask the ANPs. I'll put a link to it in the show notes.
It's a great podcast. I do enjoy that one. I am slowly but surely, 1 week at a time, ramping up my AMP knowledge.
And also, this is I don't know what speed people listen to this podcast on, but I know that if you don't know where the button is to change the speed of which you are listening to the podcast, when you listen to Ask the AMPs, you will find the 1.5. And I say that with love.
I am a 1.0 purist. I love Mike Bush, and one of the things listening to him made me do is I have a maintenance logbook. So as an aircraft mechanic, I am logging my time, meaning my time of oil changes. I don't know if it'll take me anywhere, but since you have to have so many hours to be an A&P, may as well start as soon as possible. So if there's any thought you have that you might go down the mechanic route, start logging your time, even for the boring things like brakes and oil.
So can I ask, is that a maintenance logbook similar to your aviation logbook?
Yeah, it looks very similar to that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's hilarious. It's like, what tail number are you working on? Same one, Yeah. But yeah, it's a great one to remember to log time in it.
Like, wow, he's got his oil changes down to 1.75.
Yeah, I'm getting good at those. I want to hit several Patreon things. First, when you sign up for Patreon, there's a spot for a survey, and I have a couple of responses I want to read. So these are people that have signed up. The first is from Murky, who said, I've been listening to the podcast for a few months after hearing about it on OB. I love the conversations focused around enjoying GA as a hobby rather than a stepping stone to the airlines. Ben, looking forward to joining the Discord. So Murky, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Second one is from Bradley N. Just turned 51 and got my PPL, working on my IFR now and doing some backcountry training.
Nice.
With a
Yeah.
66 Cessna 182.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Early 182. Not super, but relatively early 182. So speaking of Patreons, our new Patreons at the Landomatic level is, as mentioned, Murky. At the Hershey Bar level, we have Mike A and Sean Z. And we keep forgetting to mention it because you can send us PayPal drops if you don't want to join the Patreon system, and that's okay. And Sue F gave us a great Patreon drop. So that's
PayPal drop.
Wow, that really confuses things. Yes, a PayPal drop. Just drop us some money that way. So that's
And
great.
I'll say thank you, Sue. I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thank you, Sue.
Sue's great. In the Discord world, I've been trying to log some of the achievements that are going on in there. One of our two rats, Mountain Rat Matt, passed his private pilot check ride. Fantastic. Mark Wendell-Geek had his longest streak of non-flying days of 33 days. So he was glad to break that. I think he broke that. And the really big news is that his son passed his private pilot check ride.
Unbelievable. So awesome.
That is
So the Geek family is going to be a bunch of aviators here at the rate we're going right now.
exactly. Yeah, that's
Nice.
son name is Golf.
Yep.
That we'll say.
Congratulations. Wow.
Or
Well
as
done,
I call
sir.
him, he's too dull geek.
Yes.
So
Chris C, our favorite Chris C, got his one of our favorite people. Chris C got his flight review done, and he's back to flying. Chris is one of the people I love to reference because he knows he's not going to fly all the time. He's going to fly occasionally. He wants to stay proficient with a relatively low number of hours per year, and he's very good and very aware of that. We have another Chris C, who also completed his flight review. And while he was on the flight review, he landed on his first grass runway and was kind of walked through doing an instrument approach. So
awesome.
Which is something I've done not too long ago with a 430 is doing an instrument approach, which is kind of wild. There's been a lot going on in flight debriefs. I've got to kind of call that channel out. People do really good write-ups and good things to think about. One of the things recently was Charlie Golf Sierra talked about flying through the New York corridor, which is, again, a perennial topic is how do you do that? What should you be aware of? And they wrote up a great report. And
Also
some
with some
pictures
key
I'll bring through
insights on maybe an option not to take. I'll mount that suspense and then people can go in and see.
There you go.
It was a very excellent write-up. I really appreciated it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great channel for good write-ups.
Yeah. Well, hey, so before we go, I just want to say shout out to everybody at the Music City STOL event. Again, Dev Cannon and everybody at the Commemorative Air Force. It's not often that Ben and I get together and go to an event like that. It was really cool to do that. And Ted, we thought that maybe you'd come through, maybe in passing, but you didn't show up. That's fine.
I halfway expected him to come in and land amongst all the other people in competition, just to say, "Let me show you how it's done." And he just drops the egg right there in the middle of the whole show.
Yeah.
There's a pantsless egg.
Yeah, 9-hour flight lag and a STOL landing.
Yeah, right.
And then he takes off a STOL and flies back to Portland.
Yeah.
But just what a special time it was, and just incredible. So thanks to everybody, and special thanks to everybody in the chat. But Ben, you can shut us down.
Yeah. Don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. We would love to be able to read it on the air. Don't forget to hit subscribe or like or whatever you do with your podcast players so you can hear us each week. Ted, Brian, do you have any other comments that you'd like to make?
Oh, I
Ted's
do.
got something.
I got something for you. So, Mosaic, the topic that we will continue to talk about, at least for a little while longer, Avemco put out a blog post about how does Mosaic affect your insurance? And it's a really good intro, whether you've got Avemco insurance or not. If light sport pilot affects you in any way, which includes having your private pilot license and flying without a medical, it gives you some things to think about and to look for in your insurance policy. And one of the main things that misnomers that has always happened with flying sport pilot is, oh, but my insurance says you have to have a medical to fly. So I pulled the wording out of my insurance. This is only mine, not authoritative about anybody else's, but it's of the requirements you have to have. There's other things, but it says has a current and effective medical certificate if a medical certificate is required by the FAA for the privileges being exercised. So that's pretty typical wording of has a medical if a medical is required. But please check your insurance if this affects you in any way, and probably check your FBO's insurance too.
Yep. Don't forget to check us out on the web, midlifepilotpodcast.com. Merch, blog, everything else is there. Tonight's bit of wisdom kind of relates to the avionics discussion, if we want to call it that. A goal without a plan is just a wish. Signing off, episode 150 of the Midlife Pilot Podcast. Goodbye, everybody.